Welcome back to The Vocalist. Today we are listening to the band Portishead with a live performance of the song Roads. Here we go.
Oh, can't anybody see? We've got a war to fight. We never find a way, regardless of what they say. How can it feel this wrong? From this moment, how can it feel this wrong? Stone in the morning light, I feel no more can say. Frozen to myself, I got nobody on my side. Surely that ain't right. Surely that ain't right.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. I was not anticipating that opening. Let me see. We're gonna start back at the beginning.
Oh, can't anybody see?
That is so challenging. To not only like be in head voice, but to be singing it so softly at the onset of a song. Because you're basically playing that game where it's like, okay, I know I need my chords to come together, but I need them to barely touch. And so oftentimes when singers have moments like that, we'll hear kind of an interruption of sound because they're not getting the chords adducted, because they haven't quite got the airflow figured out. So it's really fascinating to hear that at the beginning of this song. I don't know what came before it in this concert, but even just the opening instrumental section, I mean, it's long enough that someone could feel, I don't know, that they lost the ease and their dexterity with such a long pause. I do love, I don't know if this video is going to get blocked, but you can see sort of, I think when the beat drops, a moment where she opens her mouth and she takes a fairly long inhalation before she starts singing, which is super smart. Oh, let me go back a little further.
Oh, can't anybody see. We've got a war to fight.
You can even hear tiny moments where like the adduction like lightens ever so slightly and it gets a little airier, but not so much that it sounds like two different colors entirely.
We never find a way, regardless of what they say.
I love how when she dips back down into more of a chest range, it still matches everything. She's not going into like a full press or a full belt or anything like that. Like, it's still so gentle and so precise.
How can it feel this wrong? From this moment, how can it feel this wrong? Stone
getting this full sound in her chest range, it's so jazzy and it's such a lush sound, even though it's very like simple and light. I think she's got just a gorgeous tone, for lack of a better description.
I feel
actually, this is such a beautiful example of how she's maneuvering her mix. When she sings you could hear that lightness. There was no TA engagement. And then when she gets into can't anybody, that's when there's more press in the chords. And so this is a gorgeous mix because it's still so light. It's in the same range we had before where she was hanging out predominantly in head voice. But she's managed to add just enough press to get that TA engagement, to get a little bit more power in the sound, but not so much that she's like belting it out. the way she's delivering all of these lines, I think the reason it's making me happy is when you are kind of figuring out your registration and understanding head voice, mixed voice, chest voice, and what those parts of your range feel like, sound like, and what they can be. It can be really challenging, I think, for a lot of singers to define their voices in that way, because it's not black and white. You know, a lot of us who coach, we try and make it simple based off of muscle engagement. Is the TA working? Are both the TA and CT involved, or is it just the CT muscle? That's kind of the simplest way to describe it, but singers experience a lot of different sensations within those three registers. And so that's why, like, I'll get into this another time. I could be rambling for ages. What I wanted to get at was that it's important that you be able to maneuver all of those registers. Oftentimes, we try to make the shift from one to the other seamless, undetectable. But what she, I think, has done, she has mastered that ability, but she makes those changes obvious in order to add so much color and dimension to every phrase. I don't remember where it was, but there was one line in particular where I thought it reminded me of, teaching like really young singers, because they're trying to figure out head voice. And so sometimes you get that really light, airy quality, but we already heard that in that same range, she's capable of something with more press. And so it was just really fascinating to hear her sort of allow both of those sounds to come through in this one piece, to not try and erase the differences, but just embrace them. Hopefully that made sense.
Oh, can't anybody see?
I'm going to play this last one. You'll notice when she says, oh, this time, there is not a glottal onset. I think at the very beginning, we heard just a slight glottal oh, instead of oh, like just that warmer approach. It doesn't have to be a pure H at the beginning of a note, but just something that's not quite as abrasive. And I think you will also be able to hear how that changes the color in tone that she produces. If you use a glottal onset, like if I were to say, oh, you can hear there's a little bit more clarity in my tone because my chords are firmly pressed together, having used that glottal onset. If I say, oh, there's a little bit more air that's coming through because I'm not firmly pressing the chords together. So at the beginning, to my ears, she used a glottal onset, and then she had to separate the chords after that in order to get that lighter sound. Here, let me play it again. I feel like because she didn't use a glottal onset, she didn't have to correct anything. And so it went straight into that beautiful, angelic, really light sound, very head dominant, right out the gate. I think, let me remember where I am. I'm going to go back and play the very first line just so you can hear what I'm talking about. tiniest shift. So there was like press in her sound at the beginning, but then she lightened it up as opposed to what we heard here.
Oh, can't anybody see? We've got a war to fight. We've never found our way, regardless of what they say. How can it feel this wrong? From this moment, how can it feel this wrong?
I think what I loved most about this was how many colors and textures we heard in her vocal line. There was just a lot of dimension, and it felt as though she embraced those natural registration shifts instead of trying to smooth them out. So yeah, I just found it really interesting. And of course, I always love anytime I hear contemporary singers embrace more head voice, because we don't hear that very often. And it can be used in a lot of different ways, and this was a perfect example of that. So also, her diction was just crystal clear. And I think part of that is, again, she wasn't trying to make a lot of loud sounds or really full sounds. It all seemed so effortless, and so I was really able to hear every word. I don't know. I will be listening to more of Portishead. So thank you guys so much for this recommendation and for watching with me, and hopefully I will see you next time.